go. Let's do it. Fist bump. Let's do that again. No worse. Okay, welcome to this episode of The Chopping Block, where we take stuff that didn't quite make it into our message, got cut on the chopping block, but we're going to bring it to you.
Yep. Last week, Dave did a great job speaking, and someone actually raised their hand and said, "Why don't you have time to cover this now?"
That's right, which I really appreciate, and that's what this chopping block kind of thing is exactly for. So today we're going to look into Daniel chapter 9. We're going to start, I think, in verse 24. And what we're going to do tonight is we're going to look into one of the most remarkable passages in all of Scripture. It's a little complicated, but if you follow it through, just a few simple helps will help you see that the prophet Daniel predicted exactly to the year and probably to the week, hundreds of years beforehand, when the Messiah would come and arrive in Jerusalem and then be killed. So that's Jesus, for those of us who believe in Jesus.
Which we celebrate this week.
That's
Holy
right.
Week.
That's right, it's Holy Week. So if you're watching this and you tend to be relatively skeptical, that's great. The Scriptures invite skepticism, and that's why they give evidence, which I love. And so this is going to be hopefully helpful to you in that. But we really ask you to lean in and consider the evidence, because I think it's going to speak for itself, and it's pretty amazing. And what I love about predictive prophecy in the Scriptures is it's not a subjective kind of thing. You can really tell whether it's happened or not. And even using extra biblical sources, we can confirm dates, confirm the writings of different books and stuff like that. And so it really gives you something concrete to look at. If you already believe in Jesus, that's great. We're glad you're watching. Maybe you go to our church. Maybe you're a friend or someone else. Maybe you just found this. That's great. This week is Holy Week. This will be a great way to kind of enrich your engagement with Holy Week, leading up to Easter this coming Sunday. Consider these things and see how God would lead you to reflect and worship. Also, for those of us who already believe in God, this is a great way to bolster, to strengthen your faith, to give confidence to what you already believe. Because
to galvanize.
Oh yeah, you were really liking that galvanize word.
Keep going.
Yeah, that's great. This can help galvanize your faith, because you probably don't come to Christ necessarily because of Daniel 9. You might. But if you already believe in Christ, and you stuff like this can really give you confidence that what you believe is real.
Just one quick note on that. So I've had different experiences with God, moments where I felt He was close to me, but a lot of my Christian life is when I'm discouraged, I'm down in the dumps, and He doesn't feel like He's close, but I can go back again and again and look at fulfilled prophecy, and it can confirm to me again the truthfulness of these things I believe.
That's right.
So,
And we don't have time to go into this now, but I think you will find that if you look for this in other holy writings, other books, You're not going to find anything like this. This is where the Bible really stands in a completely unique place. There's nothing like this.
If you want to take Nostradamus and compare his super vague, odd prophecy to this,
but his best ones
to this, you'll be blown away with the clarity of biblical prophecy compared to the vagueness and things like that. So.
Yeah, this passage we're going to look at talks about real people, real places, real dates that you can check from outside the Scriptures, and the interpretation is not really vague. It's very clear. So hopefully it'll be fun. All right, so we're going to go ahead and dive in. I'm going to read the passage, and then Ben's going to kind of help diagram on the board.
And Dave's going to help me.
I'll pepper in as we go. Okay, so we're in Daniel chapter 9. We're going to start in verse 24. And so just the brief background here is Daniel, an Israelite, is in captivity in Babylon because the Israelites have been exiled, conquered by the Babylonians, and you find out because God is judging them for their sins. And so that's actually going to come in a little bit here to the context. And Daniel is towards the end of his life, and it's towards the end of almost 70 years in captivity. And he's realizing that maybe these 70 years are about over because of some predictive prophecy. And he's asking God, what does it all mean? And so he gets a vision from God here. And in the vision, God tells him what is to come. All right, so we're picking up in verse 24. Where the vision, God, through his angel, says, 77s are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Know and understand this, from the issuing of the decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem, until the anointed one, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. It will be rebuilt with streets in a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, the anointed one will be cut off and will have nothing. All right. What do we do with this?
Here we go. So, could this at all be referring to Ezra's decree to rebuild the temple?
Oh yeah, that's important. So we have to figure out, when does this thing start? When does the clock start? And so we're trying to get to when the Messiah comes.
Now I'm putting you in the
that's great.
explanation role.
Hey, this is great. Hey, so this is the starting point. So we got to figure out when this thing starts. And it says from the, what does it say? From the time of the issuing of the decree to rebuild Jerusalem. That's when we start. Mm-hmm. And there's actually a few candidates, and that can be in the extra credit section if you want to look at those. But only one of them stands up to the test. There's a number of decrees to rebuild part of Jerusalem, like the temple or something like that. But there's only one where the whole city is decreed to be rebuilt, including its walls and streets.
Yeah.
And that's what it talks about here specifically. So that's what we're looking for.
Rebuilt with streets in a trench.
That's right. That's the defensive structure. So what are we looking at? How do we know what this one is?
We look at Nehemiah chapter 2,
Great.
verse 1 to 8.
Which is very well attested, even outside of the scriptures.
Yeah. So before we get to checking out Nehemiah 2, let's talk a little bit about our 77s here. So the sevens, from context, we know, you can read Leviticus 25, other places, that this is referring to 7 years. Some translations we often use we usually use ESV. We just read it from NIV. ESV translates it weeks of years. It gets it a little bit confusing. This is actually more accurate in this case. 7.
Yeah, the original language, it just says 7 sevens.
Yeah.
The word 7 there can refer to weeks or days.
So 7 equals 7 years.
Yeah, but we know that from the context around this passage.
Yeah. So all in all, we're looking for 490 years, but we'll find when we get to the end of this that we're actually missing a 7. That's for a whole nother chopping block.
That gets pretty sweet.
Point. Okay, so we're looking for this timeline here from the decree to rebuild Jerusalem, which we'll look at in Nehemiah 2, to when Messiah comes, which we celebrate on Palm Sunday, Good Friday, and then of course we celebrate Easter, resurrection of Messiah. So we're looking for 7 years here.
No, not 7.
Excuse me.
Sevens.
That's why.
Sevens of years.
That's why we believe in team.
That's right.
Team.
So this is actually 7 sevens equals 49 years.
Yeah, 7 sevens and 62 sevens. So 49.
Mm-hmm. And what's that one?
Oh man, I had it written down. 434.
434.
Some of you guys were doing the math quicker than I could even look at my PowerPoint.
That's great.
Good job. So this is what we're looking for. This will be how long, and to date this exactly.
So altogether, what is that? 483?
Oh, yeah, so we add 49 years plus 434. 483 years. We good to go so far?
Great. So how do we, do we need to start the clock running yet?
Should we start the clock running? No, we better do some conversion here.
Oh yeah, that's right. So in the Bible, especially in this passage, their years were a little different from ours. We use the modern solar year, which is
365 days
per year. That's right. You can even do 0.25 if you want to put the leap year in. It'll make this calculation even more accurate, but for our purposes, this will get us pretty close. And yet these guys were in the lunar year, especially the ancient lunar year. It was very simple. So it was 360 days, 12 months of 30 days each. And that might sound confusing, but all we have to do is a simple conversion by converting to days, and then we can convert their lunar year to our solar year.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So we're talking ancient lunar years. So if you look up lunar years in modern time, it's not exactly this, but this is the ancient lunar year, 360 days per year. Mm-hmm. Modern solar year, or just solar year, 365.25 days.
0.25 if you want to get really
365 days. So we need to do a little conversion, don't we? A little simple math. So we got lunar year, 360 days. So we're looking at 483 years.
Yep.
Right?
Equals how many days?
So we're taking that times 360. We still
right.
good?
Yep.
Let me do this in my head real quick.
He's not.
Look at my PowerPoint. 173,880 days. Are we tracking?
Yep. And days are the same.
From this decree to King Messiah comes 173,880 days. Now, to convert this to solar,
Modern solar years.
we take our 173,880 days and divide it by
365.
365.
We're getting a little sloppy.
Now, we may have to erase some things here, but that then equals 476
Of our
years.
Right.
Modern years. Okay, I'm going to erase
And so the reason we're converting
part of
this is because to get this date, we know this date from modern archaeology, even way better than they would in their time.
Right.
We know, and you'll see this here in a second. So we're going to reference this by our years, and so it's going to be important as we do this calendaring timeline calculation here that we just go ahead and stay in our years. It makes it easier.
Right, and you bring up an interesting point that our modern calculation actually makes this date even more precise than the ancient readers of the text would have understood. Part of that lets us know that they could not have tried to fulfill that on their own.
That's right.
So actually fulfilled prophecy is even more reliable in a way for us with our modern dating
That's right.
Mechanism, which is an amazing thing.
It's
Truly,
pretty cool.
The scriptures are set apart,
Yeah.
God's timeless word. All right, so here we are. So
now we got to figure out
Jerusalem.
what's this.
Will be 476 years until Messiah comes. All right, let's talk about dating this. So Nehemiah 2, 1-8 is where we turn to find this date. Are you turning there or am I turning there?
How about you just go ahead and
I got it. Okay.
You're probably quicker than me.
Well, I already had it marked.
Yes, you are.
And now we are in ESV. Nehemiah 2 says, in the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, I took up wine, gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. And it goes on, and it says, the king said to me, what are you requesting? So I prayed to the God of heaven. I said, if it please the king, if your servant has found favor in your sight, that you send me to Judah in the city of my father's graves, to the city of my father's graves, that I may rebuild it. And the king said to me, the queen sitting beside him, which made it legit, I guess, how long will you be gone? When will you return? So it pleased the king to send me when I had given him a time. And I said to the king, if it pleases the king, let letters be given me to the governors of the province. So let me have a decree.
That's right.
And a letter to Asaph, the keeper of the king's forest, on and on. And the king granted me what I asked for the good hand of my God was upon me. So there's a decree given to me at Nehemiah from Artaxerxes the first, right here, to rebuild Jerusalem. And so we learn, you turn to Encyclopedia Britannica Volume 1.
Or
Page 598,
or most of us will go to Wikipedia. You'll find the exact same information.
Or Wikipedia. And you'll learn that Artaxerxes came to power in 465 BC.
That's right. This is starting to get helpful.
So we got to back up just a bit here. 465 BC came to power.
That's right.
So in the month of Nisan,
This requires a little bit of info here.
yeah. So
But he comes to power in December 465 BC, and Nisan is in the spring. So the first Nisan would have actually been in 464 BC.
right.
So that one, and then it says that in the...
Wait, let's pause because we got to let that sink in. Right, came to power December 465. The Nisan is in the spring, so the first Nisan he is in power.
In his first year of reign
is 464 BC.
That's right.
And then we read in the 20th year
That's right.
of King Artaxerxes the first.
In Nisan.
So 464. 20 years later, and of course we're BC, so it's 444.
Boom. Make it happen.
444
BC. Yep.
Good there. And we can just erase this.
All right. So this is when the decree went out, 444 BC, according to our years.
Decree went out 440 feet. Like you just
So what do you do when you add 476 years to 444 BC. Remember, we're going from negative to positive here.
Yep.
What do you do?
So we have negative 444
Plus
plus 476
equals, I think that goes to plus 32, right?
yes, to 32. So this would be 32
AD.
AD.
But
Wait,
one last thing.
hold your horses.
Of course, on a number line, you go from -1 to 0 to +1. But in years, it goes from 1 BC, there's no 0 year, you just go straight to 1 AD.
Yeah.
So
So if you're looking at 2, 1, so this is BC.
yeah, that's AD.
Hey, that's what teamwork is
Teamwork
for.
makes the dream work. What it means is you have to add one more year since there's no 0 year.
Yeah, so
So +1 brings us to 33 AD in Nisan in the spring.
33 AD.
Now, if you get on Wikipedia and look for Jesus chronology or Jesus timeline or something like that, even the most secular scholars, folks who don't believe in the Bible, they will tell you that historically speaking, the best date we have for Jesus riding into Jerusalem and then being killed on the cross is
33 AD.
That's
Exactly.
right. Even more specifically, because we know of other different things that feed in there, that's Nisan of 33 AD, which would have been right there in the spring.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very beginning of April.
Yeah, so Dave preached on King Jesus, a grown man coming in on a young colt. Really ridiculous scene that was prophesied even in Zechariah 9:9. And we have in Daniel 9 predicting to the date that prophecy.
Yeah.
And likely, as you
Probably
pointed out,
about 600 plus years beforehand. However, some more skeptical liberal scholars, they look at all of the prophecies fulfilled in Daniel, and they say there's no way that could have happened. And so they must have written it around the time that some of it happened. So they're talking specifically about some of the stuff that happens in Daniel 7 and 8. And so they say, well, we know that they were in the Dead Sea Scrolls, so they had to be before like 160 BC, so probably around 200 BC. That might solve some of these other ones if they're right. Mm-hmm. But it does nothing to Daniel 9. Yeah. Because it still would put it around 200 to 250 years before Jesus.
Yeah.
It doesn't touch this. So even we'll give you the late dating of Daniel, although we for other reasons don't think that's accurate.
So 250 to 600 years prior to the event this was predicted.
All right, we're about out of time.
About out of time. What are our last little comments here?
The last little comments are, what do you think about this? Can you think of any reason that this could happen other than God telling us that it was going to happen at least 250, likely 600 years before it happened? If this is true, it means that the Messiah who comes in 33 AD was probably the real one.
Yeah.
And that's Jesus of Nazareth, the one that Time Magazine says is the most influential man of all time.
Yeah, most important question you can ask is, who is this person, King Jesus? Most important question. I think we have just a few more seconds. So we got 483 of these lunar years accounted for, but we're missing a 7.
That's right.
And the events of this remaining 7 are yet to come. There's often a prophetic gap in these texts, and so we're in that gap, waiting for this future 7 to occur.
Right.
Perhaps another chopping block.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Progress.church.
If you've got questions from this, please let us know. If you've got other things that you'd like us to cover, we're all ears. We hope this is helpful to you.
Yeah.
Yep. Thanks for tuning in.
Fist bump.
See.
Now, did we get cut off?
What does it say?
39 seconds.
Boom!
Hey, go do something. 39 seconds. There's more. We have 30 seconds. To the skeptic, this stuff is like legit.
It's crazy.
I'm a skeptic. I grew up in a Christian home, and when I have doubts, I come to this kind of stuff to say, why do I believe the Bible over these other texts?
That's right. And to the believer, hopefully you can take your friends through this because it's really powerful.
And it's not just numbers. This is King Messiah. This can be enrich our devotional life as well. This is amazing.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in.